Welcome back, amazing leaders, to season 3 of Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Dora Mendez, and this episode is very special. It is the season 3 premiere. We are honored to welcome back a very special guest, the leader I most admire, who has become a part of the DNA of this podcast. She's been here once, twice, and now a third time because her voice is so essential, that transformative, and that's needed in this moment. Our season 3 premiere guest is none other than the activist, advocate, and new author, my mother, Zenaida Mendez. By the end of this conversation, you will walk away with a renewed sense of purpose, a deeper courage to stand in with your truth, and a powerful reminder that your voice, your story, and your presence matter more than you realize. This episode is your boost to rise boldly, unapologetically, and with the conviction that change begins with you. So settle in, let's take a breath, and let's get ready. Hello, and welcome to Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dora Mendez. I am the founder and CEO of Coach Dora LLC. Our guests will be entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders that drive social impact. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. It means so much that you join us week after week for these conversations, that you are back with us for season 3. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. That is why we started this podcast. If you are new to the Building Leadership community, we are so glad that you're here. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Say hi in the comments. We have some great resources to share with you today. If you are thinking about starting your own podcast, check out our mini episode. Oh, pardon me, our mini course, the Entrepreneur's Podcast Blueprint. I've partnered with my husband and co-producer, Dylan Rogers, to create 5 easy-to-follow video modules, along with a workbook that you can download and follow along at your own pace. And you get a very handy AI prompt sheet that will make getting your episode out there into the world a breeze. Check out the link in the description. We are starting the season with a renewed sense of purpose. So let me tell you about our guest today. In case you are new to the podcast, let me tell you about our amazing guest, the leader I most admire, Zenaida Mendez. She is currently the Chief External Affairs Officer of Manhattan Neighborhood Network and the president and founder of the National Dominican Women's Caucus. But her roots in advocacy go much deeper. Zenaida is a lifelong social justice advocate, serving in pivotal roles under Mayor David Dickens, the first Black mayor of New York City, and the Honorable, may he rest in peace, Congressman Charles Rangel, as well as being the first woman of color to be president of New York State chapter of the National Organization for Women. She was also the first director of racial diversity programs for the National Organizations for Women. Today, she continues to serve on the boards of New York Women in Film and Television and the Harlem SGL LGBTQ Center. She is a powerhouse who has recently added author to her resume and long list of accomplishments and accolades. Author to her resume with the release of her memoir, Amor y desamor de la diáspora. Una vida de activismo, migración y liderazgo en los Estados Unidos. It is available now in Spanish and with an English translation on the way. And today, Zenaida is here to pour into you. Season 3 starts right now, and we can't ask for a more inspiring woman to lead us into this season. Let's bring her to the stage. Hold for applause. Hi, Mom.
Hi,
How are you today?
I am great. I just laughing because it's like, wow. Thank you so much for that introduction. Oh my God. Whoosh.
Yeah, so you see here right above me, there's your book. It's in my new set for season 3. Yay! There's the book. You can get it on Amazon. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Yes, it's beautiful. So Mom, this is your third time on the show. So you've always launched our premieres. The first season you have such a long um, you know, history of advocacy and leadership. And season 1 we talked about a lot of your back in the days, your organizing and community organizing. And season 2 you really shared uh advice to the next generation. And in this season, let's talk about your book and how leadership is really at the core, like sort of sharing your inspiration, your immigration story. So, can you tell our listeners and viewers why you decided to tell your story now?
Well, I've been actually sort of writing the last 10 years, and some of my writing have been published in other books, and such as the one Immigrants History of Immigrant Dominican Women in the United States. The America Latero compile was 12 of us for a chapter in the book. And I kept a diaries in the 80s. So I have boxes and boxes of notebook with story. And my plan actually was to uh, have the book out during the pandemic because I wrote a lot. And things happened and it's delayed. And finally, and also deciding because I wrote over 600 pages. So now I have enough for 3 books. So this is the first of 3. This book is more about my memoir, my autobiography, since the time that I lived in Dominican Republic to the time that I lived there and arrived in the United States in 1969, my trajectory here. The next one is going to be an analysis of politics, not only the United States, but also all Latin America, since we live in a very different time in 2025, going to 26. So it's going to be every single day I write something new because something scandalous is going on. And not only in the United States, but also in the world.
Yes. So, I love to, we talk about leadership here. We usually ask the same 3 questions, but this is a unique episode. So, we usually ask folks to tell us about their unique story. We know a lot about your unique story, but I would love for you to tell us about your immigration story. We really haven't heard about that. And then if you can share how that informed your leadership.
Well, the reason my parents came to the United States, I always said was very blessed that I came with my parents because, as you know, many times the mother comes first or the father comes first and request the rest of the family. And that's why we have so much trauma in our communities, not only in the Latino community, but the world. Uh, so, so I thought, so when I came here in 1969, I was 40 years old. I was in 8th grade. I went to PS 61 in Corona, Queens, and I went to Flushing High School. And to tell you the truth, I didn't know that we were going to stay because we came during the summertime in July. So I thought that we were here on vacation because we really vacation. Even though my parents worked from Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday, every Saturday and Sunday we have a place to go. We went to Philadelphia, we went to the Statue of Liberty, we went to Washington, D.C. Every week we went to the Bear Mountain, I don't know how many times. And so every week my father already has a place to go.
Thank you for sharing that you arrived here and your family immediately became immersed in the culture and taking advantage of the culture of New York City. Um, how did being an immigrant coming here as a refugee inform your leadership?
Well, I don't consider myself a refugee, but okay.
Well,
But well,
so,
that is so
well,
drastic.
clarify that.
Yeah. Well,
Clarify that
yes, yes,
because
but
you did come as under asylum, correct?
more or less, yes, because my father was very involved in 1965. We had a what we call a constitution revolution in Dominican Republic. My father was very involved. Therefore, he lost his job to the president of that at that time. So many families had to leave Dominican Republic. We had 40,000 U.S. soldiers invaded Dominican Republic. Therefore, but so we came here, and like I said, I had gone to Puerto Rico also before because my mother was a teacher. So every year, instead of buying is what she did, if we got good grades, she either buy some kind of jewelry, like this Dominican earrings, or she would take us
A
on
trip.
a visit, a trip. So we usually went to Puerto Rico. My mother went several times to Puerto Rico.
Can you talk about your leadership, Mom? The book is so much talks a lot about.
I always like politics. I always like to know what's going on. And when we came here, my father already was very aware about the John Lord, Angela Davis, and he knew about Martin Luther King, and he knew what happened to Malcolm X. And Shirley Chisholm, the first African American woman in Congress, was also running 1972. She ran for president of the United States. So I was very much into what was going on in politics.
Mom, thanks for sharing that. You know, that you're always into politics. We were raised in a very civic minded household. And in the book, you have like a specific chapter about Dominican leadership in the United States. Um, uh, when the English version comes out, I hope it's still chapter 4, but as of right now, it's chapter 4. So can you talk about that, because leadership is so important and inspiring the next generations of leaders, and especially immigrant leaders. I think our audience would really appreciate hearing that perspective from you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Of course, well, basically, when I was involved very much with my community board, as many people might know, each of the borough in New York City is divided between 12 community board. That community board basically decide how the city is going to manage that area, that community, the garbage, the priority, the park, the education. So I was very involved. And then when David Lincoln became Manhattan Borough President, I was recommended to work with him because I was basically the only African, Latina in Community Board 4, very active. I knew what was going on in Health Kitchen. And after negotiation, I accepted the job. And I loved it. I mean, I was the liaison to this community from the Manhattan Borough President office. And later on, they asked me to represent East Harlem, which is basically was the mainly Puerto Rican community. And Washington High was the Dominican Community Board 11 and 12, which it was fantastic. What happens, then in 1989, David Lincoln decides to run for mayor. When he decided to run for mayor, I was very involved in the campaign. As a Latina, as a Dominican, we organized the Dominican Community Dominica for David Lincoln's. I was very involved in that. We also wanted to make sure that the new district that was going to be drafted in 1990 would have in mind the large Dominican community in Washington Heights. Therefore,
So, just for context, so sort of gerrymandering the voters in Manhattan, and so you were very integral in organizing representation for the Dominican community in Washington Heights, correct?
definitely, definitely. We were already having situation with the school district, not enough bilingual teachers and other situations. We were having situation with the hospital. And we needed a leader that really understood our community as they were more and more Dominican arriving to New York City. And therefore, we were able to draft a district that 5 Dominicans ran for that position. And Guillermo Linares was the first one elected to represent us in the city council, which was fantastic. He was there for 12 years representing us, very well representation. And more of us became more involved as, David Dinkins was very amicable to the community because he also lived in Washington Heights and he knew our community, as a leader. And I continue when he was not reelected as a mayor. Then I went to work with West Highland Environmental Action, working for environmental justice, because I don't know if many people know, basically, most of the places where there is like where the buses are staggered, and also the garbage, usually community of color. So a group of African American leaders, Peggy Shepard and others, noticed a very bad odor coming out of a processing plant that they did near the highway.
It was a sewage processing plant.
Exactly. And they sued the city. And when David Lincoln became the mayor, they settled down. So I was very involved in that process. Also, I became member of the board of directors. Then I worked with them as a staff. And it was wonderful because I learned a lot about also why our community have more asthma and more or respiratory illnesses. And it's because all the fuel from those driving or the cars, the garbage. So it was really an area where people really got involved, organizing. We organized door by door. We would go into a building, knocking each of the door, just like happened now a few weeks ago in New York City.
What do you mean just what happened now a few weeks ago in New York City?
Well, the mayor-elect, Zohran Mamdani, he did the same thing, door by door. Over 1 million, they knocked over 3 million doors. He had almost 1 million volunteers.
And you were one of them.
Yes, definitely.
So Mom, can you share why your book is so important now?
Well, I think it's critical that the new generation know what we've done in the past and how they can look forward to a beautiful future. Every group and every epoch, there have been some struggle, and we cannot give up. I think that it's important. The new generation, there are more of the new generation going to college, getting degree, getting PhD, which is important because we need more doctors, more lawyers, more engineers. We need more of us everywhere. We need people who are, in charge of the hospital, in charge of the courts. So we still have a lot of work to do. So this is to encourage them not to have a heartbreak. The book is called Love and Heartbreak, or the Diaspora. It's just we have a lot of heartbreak, but we also regain our confidence when we know that it can be done. It can be done. We cannot give up.
And so when you say we, you mean women, people of color, immigrants?
Definitely. And you see, a lot have to do, and it's important for people to understand that the United States has a very colonial mindset of Latin America. And it's important that our children understand that many of us came here not because I'm going to New York, I'm going to the United States. We were forced to be here. I give you an example. The United States, for 12 years, there was a war in El Salvador. And there were thousands Salvadorians that went to Washington, D.C. If you were in Washington, D.C., most of the Latinos in D.C. are from El Salvador because of the United States intrusion in El Salvador. And the same thing happened with Vietnam. Most of the soldiers that went to Vietnam did not speak English. So all those translators once the war stopped, they had to bring it here. Otherwise, they were going to be killed by other Vietnamese because they feel that they were traitors.
But let's focus on you, mommy. Okay. This is
Well, it's a history. It's
that
important.
I love that you talked about the title and what it means. So let's go back to what's the love and the heartbreak.
Well, Love and Heartbreak of the Diaspora basically is that we are in love with our country. Also, we had to leave. That's a heartbreak. We feel, oh, wow, after living in paradise all year with summer time, and then we had to come here, a winter with 10-degree weather and a lot of snow. And things happen politically and also in family. You have to separate from your family. All those are heartbreak. But at the same time, like I said, since I came with my parents and I have family here, so I was rejoiced. I was really happy because I was with my parents. But a lot of people don't have that, a luxury. They come one by one. And basically, I talk about love and heartbreak of the diaspora because we go up and down. We might have a year or two that is great and something happen politically and also in our family.
So you also have a love and heartbreak um, with your different identities, intersections of your identities as an Afro Latina, and racial trauma, and culture shock, which you discuss beautifully in the book. Is there any final words that you'd like to share with our audience? Anything that really speaks to um, leadership and building community?
Definitely, I feel that it is critical for us to get involved, to to take a hand on our community. When I say community, you don't have to go out there and protest. You can just your family. Like every opportunity that I get together with you and in our family, we talk about politics, what's going on. It can be Thanksgiving, it can be New Year, it can be, Christmas Eve.
Yeah, but most families avoid talking about politics.
Well, you know what also was beautiful? Every year in the Latino community, at least, there is a song, a new singer, a new song that impact the political situation of even those merengues from Mili Quesada and Johnny Ventura and the Grand Combo with the salsa, there is a message on those songs. So even though we are having fun and maybe sharing family, when we listen to those songs, we say, "Wow, look what's going on! Listen to the lyrics. Look what they're saying." And so that's important that every situation we take it to raise consciousness.
Let's talk again about how to best get involved. I love you did a beautiful talk about learning English, how important it is to learn English, and how much we love our language. But in order to really get ahead here in the United States, your advice is to learn English right away. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, the language is very important. I used to go out every Saturday. I finished high school, I got married, but I continued just to take English lesson at Columbia University on Saturday. And then someone from one of the Brooklyn Community Colleges came to talk to us and said, listen, we have the opportunity for a bilingual program at that college. And I went back to school because of Dr. Diego Colon, who came and talked to us. And I said, you know what? I'm going back to school.
And it changed your life. Yeah, it changed your
It
life.
is critical. And it doesn't matter if you have an accent, I tell people when they say, oh, you have a very heavy accent. They, of course, I was not born in the United States. It's not my
It,
main language.
it's your superpower.
It's my
It's your
superpower.
superpower.
Thank
Yes.
you, my daughter. That's
Yes,
right.
it's your superpower. I tell my own students, sometimes they get embarrassed by that or someone comments on the accent, and I always remind them that uh that you can do it twice. You're 2 times smarter than the person who speaks one language. And when people question your abilities because you have an accent, I would ask them, what other language do you speak?
I
And
usually
could
do.
you go and could you go to college in a different country in another and not your native tongue and get a college degree and get a master's degree like you did? And most monolingual people can't. So the fact that uh, I always say bilingualism, multilingualism is a superpower. It really is. So, Mom, I want to thank you so much. Do you want to share with um, our listeners and our viewers how they can get a copy of your book?
Oh, definitely. They can get a copy in Amazon. Definitely. You just put my name, Zenaida Mendez, or Amor, desamor de la diáspora. It will be coming in English in a few weeks. And it was going to be great. You're going to see, there are pictures of some other thing that I done. But the main, like I say, I want to inspire the new generation and to the people from my generation. Everyone should write a story. Everyone has a story to tell, which is very important for the next generation to know where we're from, what we're going through, to know about our grandparents, great grandparents, where they were born. All that is very important to share.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. Can you hold on there while we say our final goodbyes to our audience? Thank you so much for being here. Hold on in the wings. I want to thank our listeners and viewers for joining us. That was a really powerful story. Even though I'm biased, it's my mom. So I want to thank you for being here. And I think a lesson learned that we could take away is that everyone's story is important. And so don't forget to follow us. All the links and all of the contacts and the socials will be in the description. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. You've been listening to Building Leadership Community. Watch on YouTube at Coach Dora M. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube at Coach Dora M. Visit me on the web at CoachDoraMendez.com. Hosted by me, Dora Mendez. Produced by Dora Mendez and Dylan Rogers. Graphics, editing, and sound mixing by Dylan Rogers.